Raising my son alone has been the most challenging and rewarding journey of my life. When his mother left us just days after his birth, claiming she wasn't ready to be a parent, it felt like my world was crumbling. She walked out of the hospital without looking back, leaving me, a 21-year-old guy with a newborn in my arms. I often wondered if her mother, my then mother-in-law, had influenced her decision. She had always been vocal about how her daughter was too young for children, and her sudden departure seemed too calculated, too cold, to be just a spur-of-the-moment decision. In the early days, I juggled multiple jobs while caring for my son. I had to drop out of college and take on any work I could find to ensure we had enough to get by. It was a grueling time, but the kindness of friends and strangers kept us afloat. People from our community would often drop by with meals, offer to babysit, or just lend an ear when things got overwhelming. Their generosity was a beacon during my darkest hours. As my son grew, so did the challenges. I enrolled him in the local kindergarten, which allowed me to work more stable hours. Still, every day was a balancing act of work, childcare, and household responsibilities. My son, curious as ever, started asking questions about his mother as he got older. Each query was a dagger to my heart, but I shielded him from the bitterness and resentment I felt towards her. I maintained a narrative that was as neutral as possible to preserve his image of her. During this time, I leaned heavily on my sister, who became a second mother to my son. She was instrumental in helping him with homework, teaching him life skills, and providing the maternal figure he lacked. My father also stepped in as a role model, taking him fishing, teaching him how to fix things around the house, and instilling in him the values I cherished. Years passed, and the pain of his mother's abandonment gradually dulled. We created our own little world, filled with family traditions, weekend outings, and lots of laughter. My son excelled in school, especially in science and math, and developed a passion for robotics. His achievements were a testament to his resilience and the supportive environment we had nurtured. However, just as we were adjusting to our new normal, my son's mother reappeared. It was out of the blue, a message on social media asking to reconnect and meet her son. The news shook me deeply. All the old wounds reopened, the betrayal, the hurt, the years of hardship without her. She wanted to explain herself, to make amends, claiming she had changed and wanted to be part of her son's life. The decision to let her back in was not mine to make alone. I sat down with my son, now a teenager, and discussed it. He was understandably angry and confused, torn between the desire to meet the woman who gave him life and the resentment for the years she'd missed. We decided to take it slow, starting with emails and phone calls. The conversations were stilted at first. She talked about her new life, her regrets, the therapy she'd undergone to come to terms with her past decisions. My son listened, asked tough questions, and processed everything with a maturity beyond his years. It was a slow and often painful process, but it was necessary for his emotional closure. Today, my son is 25 and thriving. He has a degree in mechanical engineering and a promising career ahead of him. His relationship with his mother is cautious but slowly improving. As for me, I've found peace in seeing him happy and fulfilled. The journey wasn't easy, but it shaped us into the family we are today, stronger, closer, and more resilient than ever. So recently, mother-in-law appeared on our doorstep without a call, without any kind of notification. She was just there, and she had come to visit her grandson. I couldn't believe my ears. And at first I almost didn't recognize her because so many years have passed after all, and she was behaving as if she was a caring grandmother who had come to see her grandchild like she does all the time. Not like she was gone for 25 years when my son saw her. He didn't recognize her either. I have shown him pictures of his mother and his grandmother just in case they show up one day. But I never really thought that they would. She ran up to him and hugged him just like a loving grandmother would, asking how he's doing and how big and beautiful he has become. And he pushed her away and looked kind of confused. I told him that it's his grandmother who randomly showed up to visit him, and he was like, "Oh," and walked away from her mother-in-law. Didn't take this reaction very well. She looked at me and was like, "What have you taught him if he doesn't even say hello to his grandmother? He's looking at me as if I'm a stranger. Haven't you told him about his mother? And we are showing him our pictures. Well, technically, you are a stranger mother-in-law. He had never seen you in person, so why are you so surprised? You show up out of thin air after 25 years, when he's all grown up, and expect him to treat you with love. Isn't it kind of delusional? My son said that did show me your picture, but I needed no picture. I needed you to be there for me. He was quite hateful with her, throwing question after question at her, and mother-in-law's responses were so incredibly narrow-minded, it looked like she wasn't expecting him to ask any questions. He asked her where his mother was, and mother-in-law was like, "Oh, she's doing very well. She's living together with a great man, and she has 2 nice kids. She has gotten over that misunderstanding about your birth. She was acting as if her daughter was the victim here, as if we were the ones who left her. He asked her, why did his mother abandon him? Mother-in-law said, well, she was such a young girl, it would be crazy for her to have a child at that age. She had her whole life ahead of her, and a baby would only be an obstacle. You must understand it. She didn't want to lose her freedom. Honestly, her daughter was older than me when our son was born. She was 24. I don't think it's too early to have a child. It's not like she was 14 or something. Actually, age has nothing to do with it. I could have given up my son, too. I was very young as well, but I didn't because I loved him and I wanted to be his father. At this point, I wanted to show mother-in-law the door. Obviously, she wasn't welcome in our house, but my son stopped me. He had one more question. He asked why mother-in-law didn't want to be his grandmother. His mother left him fine. But why did mother-in-law leave him to mother-in-law? Said, well, I had no time to take care of you. I was a young woman too. I had my life too. Then grandkids are only obligated to take care of grandparents when they're old, and that's why I'm here. Then my son told her to leave and never come back. He said he doesn't want to see her ever again, and he won't help her with anything really quick. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to drop a link. And as she was leaving, she attacked me like that's what I thought. A man alone cannot raise a proper human being. Such a rude and impolite boy. He would have turned out better in an orphanage than with you. So according to mother-in-law, the conclusion is, don't have children while you're young. Or if you do, feel free to leave them, and then come back a few decades later, and they'll love you, even though they have never received any kind of care from you. But seriously, what the hell was she expecting? Now for the comments before the updates, not the idiot, that stupid bee. That whole side of the family is horrible. I had my daughter May of this year when I was 24 years old, turned 25 in September, and my husband only just turned 22 when she was born. You're absolutely right. It's not freaking 14 years old. You're in adult life. Happens. I could never ever imagine walking out on my daughter and husband like that. It's despicable. Freak them. You're a great father who raised a wonderful son. But the idiot. I'm actually glad this happened. You kicked ass as a father and raised someone who sounds like a strong young man. This strong young man just got to see the difference between the father who raised him and the grandmother and mother who abandoned him for utterly ridiculous reasons. Well then, about the idiot you probably already have. But just in case, it would be good to talk to him about this. Just an open talk where he can explain how he feels and where you can help him if he has any trouble coping with it. It may not seem like a big deal and that he's handled it really well, but it would still be good just to make sure and to show that he can talk about these things with you. If he doesn't want to, don't press him or anything. Just let him know you're there. Update 1. Life has a way of throwing surprises, and just when you think you've settled into a comfortable rhythm, it disrupts everything with a startling jolt. That's exactly what happened when, out of the blue, my son, now a mature and self-reliant 25-year-old, received a mysterious friend request on social media. It was from an account bearing the name and image of his long-absent grandmother. Naturally, this sudden attempt at digital reconnection caught us off guard, igniting a mix of curiosity and old wounds. This wasn't just a simple friend request. It was the opening gambit in what turned out to be a meticulously planned maneuver by his grandmother to orchestrate a reunion between my son and his mother. The mother who had decisively walked out of our lives a quarter-century ago, right after his birth, claiming she was not ready to be a parent. The same woman who refused even the basic maternal gestures of holding her newborn, leaving me, a bewildered 21-year-old, to pick up the pieces. My son, always analytical, decided to probe the situation by messaging his grandmother directly through social media. He confronted her about the decades of silence, demanding to know why she chose this moment to reach out. The digital confrontation was tense. His grandmother's messages were filled with awkward justifications and vague sentiments about regrets and lost time. During their conversation, she dropped another bombshell. Not only did she want to reconnect, but she was also acting as an intermediary for his mother, who was now expressing a desire to meet him. According to her, his mother had experienced a profound change of heart and now wanted to make amends for the years lost. My son's reaction was a complex tapestry of emotions. There was anger, certainly, for the years of abandonment and the emotional baggage that came with it. But there was also an undeniable spark of curiosity about the woman who had given him life. Could someone truly change that much? And what did she want from him now? After much deliberation and numerous discussions between us, my son decided he would meet his mother, but he set strict boundaries. He chose a neutral location, a quiet, nondescript cafe downtown, and made it clear that he was in control of the interaction. This was not a reunion, it was an evaluation. The day of the meeting was fraught with tension. I accompanied him to the cafe, offering silent support. His mother arrived, looking older and more vulnerable than the last image he had of her from an old photograph I had kept. The initial moments were awkward, the air thick with unspoken emotions and tentative glances. As they talked, his mother tried to explain herself. She spoke of her youth, her overwhelming fears, and the pressures she felt from her own mother, who, according to her, had subtly coerced her into abandoning her parental duties for a life she was ill-prepared to forfeit at the time. She talked about her new family, her attempts at motherhood again, and how these experiences had eventually brought her to a place of regret and desire for forgiveness. My son listened, his face a mask of calm that belied the turmoil inside. He questioned her motives, her absence, and the impact of her decisions on his life. Each answer she gave seemed to unravel more of the carefully curated facade of regret she presented. It became clear that while she sought forgiveness, she was still grappling with the full extent of her actions. The meeting ended with a cautious agreement from my son to remain in tentative contact, establishing boundaries that she would have to respect if she wished to be part of his life. As we walked away from the cafe, he squeezed my hand, a silent acknowledgement of the journey we had undertaken together, without her. In the days following, my son wrestled with the concepts of forgiveness and what it means to rebuild trust. He was open about his feelings, discussing them with me, and even with friends who had become like family over the years. It was a process, he realized, that would not be hurried. As for me, I was left to ponder the roles we play in our children's lives. The encounter had reaffirmed my role not just as a caregiver, but as a steadfast pillar in the unpredictable storm that life can sometimes be. Our story, marked by absence and resilience, had taken a new turn, but it was far from over. It was a reminder that sometimes the family we create is stronger than the one we are born into, and love, not blood, defines our bonds. Update 2. After that whole cafe meetup, which was already a massive step for my son, his mom threw us another curveball. Out of the blue, she hits him up wanting him to come to this big family bash. She's talking about how he's got half-siblings he's never met and a bunch of relatives who apparently have been in the dark about him all these years. It sounded like a full-on family reunion from a movie or something. So here's the deal. This invite comes out of nowhere and she's laying it on thick, trying to paint this picture of a big, happy family that just happens to have missed a few decades of birthdays, graduations, you name it. My son, he's naturally skeptical. Like, why now? After 25 years of radio silence, she wants to play happy families? It just didn't sit right with either of us. Given everything that's gone down, we decided to do a bit of digging before he even thought about RSVPing to this shindig. A little poking around on social media and some discreet chats with people who kinda know the situation, and boom! We uncover that she's tangled up in this nasty legal mess over some family inheritance. Talk about drama. This whole reunion reeked of her needing something more than just family bonding. Armed with this info, my son decides to confront her. Just straight up asks her on the phone if this whole reunion is because she needs a favor with her financial mess. And get this, she actually admits it. Says she thought maybe he could sway the family in her favor because he's the long-lost son suddenly back in the picture. Pretty manipulative, right? So my son, he's pretty gutted by this. There were these tiny hopes that maybe, just maybe, she was trying to make things right. But nope, it was all just another scheme. He tells her straight up, no thanks, on the family meetup. Tells her he's not interested in being part of some plot in her financial drama. Her reaction? She's frustrated, maybe even a bit angry, and tries to play the victim card, like how he's misunderstanding her intentions, but he's not buying it, and they end up ending the call on pretty sour terms. The next few days are rough on him. He's wrestling with all these feelings of disappointment and betrayal. We talk a lot about what family means, about the people who've really been there for him versus those who just show up when they need something. It's a tough lesson, sure, but it's also clarifying. He decides to stick to the family he knows has his back. Friends, me, people who've stepped up without any hidden agendas. This whole mess has just reinforced for him that family isn't just about blood. It's about who you can trust and who supports you without conditions. As for the mom, well, she's kind of back to square one with us. My son's door isn't completely closed, but he's going to need some real, genuine effort from her side, no strings attached, before he considers opening it again. And honestly, he's not holding his breath. We've both learned a lot from this saga. It's been a roller coaster for sure, but also a stark reminder of the values we hold dear. In the end, he's come out stronger, more aware of who he is and what he stands for. And as for me, I couldn't be prouder of how he's handled this whole thing. It's not every day you see someone face this kind of emotional chaos with such maturity. Update 3. Just when we thought things were simmering down and maybe, just maybe, we could get a little peace, my son's mom decided to crank the drama up to 11. Totally out of the blue, she shows up at our place. No warning, no call, nothing. Just rings the bell like she's dropping by for a casual Sunday brunch. I open the door, and there she is, standing on the porch looking all kinds of stressed and determined. Honestly, it felt like something straight out of a soap opera. She's got that look, like she's about to unleash something big. She asked to talk to her son, but he's not having any of it. After all the emotional gymnastics she's put him through, he's in no mood to deal with more surprises. He just flat out refuses to even come to the door. And that's when the bomb drops. She starts going off right there on the doorstep, accusing me of turning her own son against her. According to her, I've spent the last 25 years filling his head with negative stuff about her, making sure he hates her guts. She's getting louder by the minute, throwing around blame like confetti at a parade. She's painting this picture where I'm the villain, keeping her away from her son, making it impossible for her to have a relationship with him. It's like she's rewritten history, forgetting the part where she walked away and stayed away. The audacity of her rewriting our past and trying to play the victim now, it's just wild. So there I am, standing in my own doorway, having to defend myself and the life choices I made to raise our son the best way I knew how, alone. I remind her, as calmly as I can manage while she's going off, that she chose to leave. She chose the silence. Every decision I made was for our son, to give him the stability and love he deserved, the stuff she opted out of providing. Things just escalate from there. She's raising her voice, I'm trying to keep it together, and the neighbors are starting to peek out their curtains. It's turning into a real spectacle, the kind you just never want to be part of. Finally, when it's clear she's not leaving and she's just ramping up more, I have no choice. I call the cops. Yeah, it felt extreme, but what else was I supposed to do? She was causing a scene, refusing to leave, and frankly, it was getting a little scary. The cops show up, and they have to escort her off the property. It's intense, embarrassing, and just really sad when you think about it. After all that drama, my son and I sit down for a serious heart-to-heart. He's really shaken up, angry, upset, the whole 9 yards. It's one thing to handle personal family issues in private, but having it all spill out like that, publicly, it's rough on anyone. He's firm on his decision after tonight. No more Mrs. Nice Guy, no more chances. The way she handled everything, just showing up, making accusations, refusing to leave, it's just sealed the deal for him. He's done, and honestly, I support him 100%. We talk about how we'll handle any future attempts from her to reach out, deciding that strong boundaries are the way to go. That night was a real trial by fire. It tested us, no doubt about it, but if anything, it just made our bond stronger. It's a stark reminder that not all family drama can be neatly resolved, and sometimes you just have to stand your ground and protect your peace. This whole saga, as crazy as it's been, has really shown us the importance of sticking together and supporting each other through thick and thin. And whatever comes next, I know we'll handle it together, just like we always have. Update 4. My son, bless his heart, has gone and done something absolutely wonderful. He's gotten engaged. And let me tell you, the story of how he popped the question is straight out of a romance movie. But of course, there's a twist in the tale, because what's a family saga without a little unexpected drama, right? First off, the backstory on the lovebirds. My son met his now fiancée about a year back. They were introduced by some mutual friends at a local music festival. Sparks flew, the stars aligned, you know the drill. She's this vibrant, super smart woman who just clicks with him on every level. She's got this infectious laugh that just lights up the room and a sense of humor that can keep up with his. Watching them together, it's like they've known each other for lifetimes. Now, on to the proposal, because this deserves its own spotlight. My son planned this epic beach sunset scenario, all secretive and hush-hush. He was sneaking around, making calls, and booking things on the down low. He even asked for my advice on the ring, wanted something classic but with a twist, something that screamed her. The day of the proposal, he was a bundle of nerves. He took her to this gorgeous secluded spot on the beach, had a picnic set up with all her favorite foods, and even managed to sneak in a playlist of their favorite songs in the background. As the sun was setting, right there with the sand between their toes and the sound of the waves, he got down on one knee and did the whole romantic spiel. She was completely taken aback. Tears, laughter, the whole 9 yards. She said yes, of course. He called me right after, and he was so choked up he could barely speak. I mean, my heart was bursting for him. Fast forward to now, and we're knee-deep in wedding planning. They want something small but memorable, just close friends and family, in this lovely little vineyard they both love. We've been tasting cakes, looking at flowers, the works. It's been a whirlwind of happy plans and Pinterest boards. But here's the kicker. Just as we're getting into the groove of things, an RSVP lands in our mailbox that throws us for a loop. It's from none other than my son's grandmother. No heads up, no prior communication, just an RSVP out of the blue saying she's coming. Mind you, we didn't even send her a direct invite. She must have gotten wind of the wedding from another family member. This threw us a bit off balance. My son had mixed feelings about it. There's a lot of history there, a lot of hurt from past actions. We sat down, had a real talk about what this meant, how he felt about her possibly being there. It's his big day, and the last thing I want is for him to feel uncomfortable or on edge. After a good long chat, we decided we're going to approach this with cautious optimism. Maybe it's her way of trying to mend fences, maybe not, but we're not going to let it overshadow the whole event. The main thing is my son's happiness and celebrating this incredible new chapter in his life with his soon-to-be wife. So despite the surprise RSVP, we're keeping our eyes on the prize, this beautiful wedding and the even more beautiful marriage that'll follow. I'm just so proud of him, stepping into this new role as a husband with so much love and maturity. As for me, I'm just thrilled to bits. I can't wait to see him stand there at the altar, starting this wonderful journey with a woman who's as fantastic as he is. We're going to make sure this wedding is nothing short of magical come what may. Here's to new beginnings, even if they come with a little unexpected twist. Update 5. Let's start with Grandma. Not only did she decide to RSVP out of nowhere, but she also took it upon herself to become the unsolicited wedding planner. Picture this. Emails flooding in at all hours with her helpful suggestions on everything. Change the venue. Check. Redo the entire menu. Check. Oh, and let's not forget about calling our carefully chosen vendors to give her 2 cents without anyone asking her to. As if Grandma on a wedding planning spree wasn't enough. Enter stage right, my son's mother. She's been pretty much off the radar, only popping up now and then with some emotional phone call. But now she's suddenly all about the wedding. She calls my son, tears in her voice, begging for a pivotal role in the ceremony. She wants to give a big, heartfelt speech, her chance to spill her guts about past mistakes and missed years in front of a captive audience. Yep, you guessed it. Super awkward. The real showdown happened at what was supposed to be a chill menu tasting session. Just us, the lovely couple, and some delicious food. But nope, Grandma and Mom decided it was the perfect event to crash. They showed up uninvited and ready for action. Grandma immediately started nitpicking everything from the appetizers to the dessert choices, while Mom pulled my son aside every chance she got, laying on the guilt thick, trying to manipulate him into giving her a spotlight role at the wedding. Midway through the tasting, things escalated. Mom, maybe feeling bold with Grandma backing her up, launched into a full-blown tirade against me right there in front of the caterers, mind you. She accused me of alienating her from her son, of filling his head with negativity about her all these years. It was intense. Accusations flying, tears flowing, the whole 9 yards. My son, who's usually the calm in any storm, had enough. He stood up, cleared his throat, and delivered what was probably the speech of his life. He told them both in no uncertain terms that this was his wedding, a celebration of his future, not a stage for airing family grievances. And then he dropped the bomb. If they couldn't get with the program and cut out the drama, they wouldn't be welcome at the wedding. Mic, drop. The room went silent. It was one of those moments where you could literally hear a pin drop. Post-tasting showdown. My son and his fiancée got together and made some tough calls. They sent out a very diplomatic yet firm message to both Mom and Grandma. The gist? Any more antics? Any more drama? And they'd be officially uninvited from the wedding. It was harsh, maybe, but necessary to keep their big day about love and joy, not past hurts and drama. Now we're in this weird calm before the storm phase. Invitations are out. RSVP are in, including those controversial ones. And we're a few weeks out from the big day. Everything's eerily quiet on the Mom and Grandma front, which is both a relief, and if I'm honest, a bit nerve-wracking. We're all kind of on edge, half expecting some last-minute theatrics. Through all this craziness, though, I've seen my son and his fiancée handle things with such grace and unity. It's clear they're ready to take on whatever life throws at them as a team. And as for me, I'm just proud and excited to see them tie the knot. I'm focusing on the joy of the upcoming celebration, the start of their new life together, and making sure that this wedding is as magical as they deserve, come what may. So here's to love overcoming drama, to new beginnings, and to a wedding day that will hopefully be as smooth as the road to getting there was bumpy. Girlfriend stole my company and married my cousin when my family disowned me. They thought I was done, but I'm back for revenge. It was a chilly Tuesday morning when the unthinkable happened. I was sitting at my desk, coffee in one hand and scrolling through emails with the other, when I stumbled upon a message that looked like every other corporate announcement, until I read the subject line, Notice of Termination. My heart skipped a beat. Surely this had to be a mistake. I opened the email, hoping for some clarification, but the message was blunt and impersonal. We regret to inform you that your employment with Morgan Thompson Group will be terminated effective immediately. Please contact HR for details regarding your separation package. My stomach turned. How could I be laid off? I helped build this company from the ground up. Panic twisted inside me like a knife. Frantically, I fired off a text to Susan. She wasn't just my girlfriend of 5 years, she was a founder too. She'd know what was going on. My message was simple. HR says I'm out. What's going on? The reply came back almost instantly, but it wasn't the reassurance I'd hoped for. Charlie, it's true. The board has decided to go in a different direction. We need to talk. Different direction? We had just been talking about expanding into new markets last week. What had changed so suddenly? The message was cold, too formal. Nothing like how Susan usually spoke to me. Something was off. Determined to get some answers, I didn't waste any time. I grabbed my coat and headed out, bypassing bewildered looks from colleagues who'd probably seen the same email about my layoff. As I walked out, whispers followed me, each one a stab of betrayal. I reached the hotel where the company was hosting a lavish event that evening. An odd choice for a company supposedly cutting costs. The lobby was buzzing, filled with chatter and the clinking of glasses. I spotted Susan on stage, radiant and confident, addressing a crowd of eager listeners. She was painting a rosy picture of the company's future, promising growth and prosperity. It felt surreal. My anger simmered as I made my way through the crowd. The air crackled with tension as people started to notice me. Their expressions ranged from sympathetic to outright scornful. I didn't care. All I wanted was to confront Susan. As I reached the stage, her smile vanished, replaced by a cold glare. Security, she snapped, her voice cutting through the murmur of the room. How did this riffraff get in? Ignoring the sting of her words, I demanded, Susan, why am I laid off? The question hung heavy in the air. Whispers rippled through the crowd, laced with mockery. He really thinks he's the boss, huh? How does he have the nerve to talk like that? Someone muttered under their breath. Yeah, just a guy who relied on his girlfriend. Wearing a suit doesn't make you important, another voice chimed in. My blood ran cold. I'd always prided myself on keeping a cool head, but this blatant disrespect was infuriating. Susan, aware of the murmurs, spoke in a clipped tone, her words slicing through the tense air. That's right, Charlie. You've been fired, and you are no longer welcome here. Her voice turned steely. As we move towards an IPO, we need to streamline operations. You, unfortunately, are no longer a part of that vision. But everyone else, she continued, her voice taking on a saccharine sweetness, raises and promotions are coming your way. Cheers erupted from the crowd, a stark contrast to the icy knot forming in my stomach. Security guards, summoned by Susan, started toward me. As I was ushered out, a cowardly kick landed on my leg from behind. A woman's voice, dripping with disdain, echoed in the hallway. Just a freeloader. Good riddance. At least Susan's got brains without him weighing her down. She'll make a fortune. Outside, the winter air was a cold mirror to my own heart. Susan and I had built Morgan Thompson Group from scratch after graduation. I had poured my blood, sweat, and tears into this company. Now, because I lacked shares and held only a facade of power, I was expendable. Laid off from the company I had helped create, there was no way I was leaving without answers. The next morning, the company felt like a stranger's territory. My office, once a space that hummed with my energy, was now occupied by someone else. In the corner, a few boxes awaited me. Inside were my laptop, framed photos, and the remnants of my professional life. Pushing open the door, I found my cousin, Peyton Morgan, lounging in my chair, a smirk playing on his lips. Rough morning, Charlie? He greeted with a mocking lilt. Ignoring him, I strode towards the boxes, my eyes catching the incriminating picture frame he was toying with, the one with me and Susan. Congratulations on your eviction, he drawled, leaning back in the chair with a theatrical sigh. Or maybe I should congratulate you on your ex finding a new plaything. His words ignited a spark within me, and before I could stop myself, my fist connected with his jaw. A yelp escaped his lips, followed by a flurry of curses as he clutched his reddening face. Despite the pain, his arrogance remained intact. In fact, he seemed to think this was all I could do, now that I was desperate. Nice one, Charlie, he sneered. You've got nothing left now. Let's see how you fend with empty pockets. A cold anger settled over me. Someone with nothing to lose has nothing to fear from someone who has everything to protect, I countered, leaving him spluttering in the stolen chair. The whispers that greeted me as I walked through the corridors felt like a swarm of hungry mosquitoes. If they enjoyed gossip so much, maybe I should have fired half of them when I had the chance. I thought bitterly, storming toward Susan's office, kicking the door open with a resounding bang. Susan, startled, whirled around, her face a mask of fury. "What do you think you're doing? Still think you own the place?" I took a deep breath, trying to control the storm brewing within. Now was the time to start taking back what was mine. And it all started here. As I stood there in Susan's office, the anger and shock still pulsing through my veins, I realized that this was more than just a professional betrayal. It was personal. Susan's eyes were cold, a sharp contrast to the warmth they used to hold for me. It felt like I was looking at a stranger. "You don't belong here anymore, Charlie," she said, her voice firm and devoid of emotion. "It's best you leave now." I stormed out, my mind racing. The drive home was a blur, each mile adding to the weight of betrayal that settled like a stone in my stomach. How could Susan do this to me? How could she align with Peyton, of all people? And to think, just last week, we were talking about wedding plans, about a future together. It didn't make any sense. When I got home, the solitude of my apartment was a stark reminder of the loneliness that awaited me. The walls seemed to close in, suffocating me with the reality of my situation. I was out of a job, out of a relationship, and seemingly out of options. Later that evening, I couldn't shake the need for answers, so I drove back to the hotel. The party was over, but the cleanup crew was still there, moving through the now empty halls like ghosts. I needed to see the betrayal for myself, to understand the full scope of the treachery. Hidden behind a column, I watched as Susan and Peyton exited the ballroom, laughing, their arms linked. The sight was like a punch to the gut. The laughter, the intimacy. It was all too much. They didn't notice me as they headed towards the hotel bar, their smiles too bright, their conversation too light. I followed at a distance, my heart pounding in my chest. I watched as Peyton pulled out a chair for Susan, the gesture so familiar yet so foreign. They ordered drinks, their heads close together, sharing secrets and plans that no longer included me. The bartender handed them their drinks, and as they clinked glasses, Peyton said something that made Susan throw her head back and laugh. That laugh, I had loved that laugh. But now, it was a sound that would haunt me. The reality of their relationship, of their betrayal, was too much to bear. I left the hotel, the images of their togetherness burning in my mind, fueling a fire of resolve within me. They thought they could crush me, leave me with nothing. They were wrong. Over the next few days, the news of my firing spread like wildfire. My phone was inundated with messages from colleagues, some expressing sympathy, others curious about the drama. Among the flood of notifications, one message stood out. It was from a former mentor, someone who had left the company a year ago due to similar shady dealings. His words were a cold comfort. "The snakes show their true colors in the end. Keep your head up, Charlie." As I pondered my next moves, the reality of my situation began to sink in. Susan and Peyton were not just content with taking my job and my dignity, they were aiming for total destruction. Peyton, now officially my ex-cousin as far as I was concerned, had always been envious of my position at the company. And Susan, it seemed, had her sights set on more than just professional success. She wanted power, and Peyton was her ticket to it. The bitterness of the situation was overwhelming, but it also served as a catalyst. I was down, but not out. If they wanted a war, I would give them one, but not on their terms. I needed a plan, a way to turn the tables and come back stronger. In the midst of this turmoil, an unexpected call came. It was from another industry contact, someone who had heard through the grapevine about my departure. "Heard you're free these days," he said, a hint of opportunity in his voice. "Let's meet up. I might have something that could interest you." Grasping at this lifeline, I agreed to meet. Perhaps this was the break I needed, a chance to rebuild from the ashes of my former life. The meeting was set at a quiet cafe, away from the prying eyes of the corporate world. My contact, Mr. Harrison, was already there, nursing a coffee. He greeted me with a firm handshake and a sympathetic nod. "Rough deal you got there at Morgan Thompson," he began, his voice low. "But maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I'm starting a new venture, and I need someone with your expertise. Interested?" The offer was like a breath of fresh air, a chance to start anew. We talked for hours, hashing out details, planning strategies. By the end of the conversation, I had a new job, a new purpose. I was going to build something even bigger and better than what I had at Morgan Thompson. And this time, I would be in charge, with no Susans or Peytons to stab me in the back. As I left the cafe, a plan forming in my mind, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Susan and Peyton had made a grave mistake in underestimating me. They had taken my job and tried to take my dignity, but they couldn't take my spirit or my resolve. They thought they'd crushed me, left me with nothing. They were wrong. Now, I was back to claim everything they thought they had stolen: the company, the power, the revenge. And it all started with this new opportunity, this new beginning. As the sun set over the city, casting long shadows down the bustling streets, I felt the weight of the past days lift slightly. The battle was just beginning, and I was ready. After securing a new venture that promised a fresh start, I drove back to my apartment feeling a mix of relief and unresolved anger. The streets were quiet, mirroring the turmoil inside me, a turmoil that wasn't just about losing a job or a girlfriend, but about betrayal from those I trusted most. Back at my place, the silence was deafening. The walls of the apartment, once filled with laughter and dreams, now echoed back my solitary footsteps. It was here in this empty space that the full weight of the past week's events truly hit me. I slumped onto the couch, my head in my hands, trying to wrap my mind around the swift turn my life had taken. The next morning was tough. Waking up without a job to go to, no emails to check, no meetings to attend, it was a stark reminder of my new reality. I felt adrift, like a ship without a rudder, tossed about by waves of uncertainty and frustration. I tried to keep busy, to keep the dark thoughts at bay. I cleaned the apartment, did the laundry, anything to stay moving. But every task was punctuated with painful reminders of Susan and the life we had planned together. Every corner of the apartment, every item we picked out together, felt tainted. Later that day, as I was sorting through some old business cards, I came across Susan's. The sight of her name, her title next to mine, twisted the knife a bit deeper. In a fit of anger, I ripped the card to shreds. It was a small petty act, but it felt good. It felt like I was taking back a little control. But anger and petty revenges didn't fill the void for long. I needed to face what had happened head on, to understand why. I needed closure. I picked up my phone several times, thumb hovering over Susan's contact, but each time I put it down again. I wasn't ready to hear her voice, not yet. That evening, I forced myself to go out for a walk, to get some air. The city was bustling around me, life moving forward unabated. Couples walked hand in hand, people laughed, the world kept turning. It felt unjust. How could everything just carry on when my world had stopped? As I walked, I passed the cafe where Susan and I had spent countless hours planning our future. The sight of it was like a punch in the gut. We used to sit by the window, laptops open, discussing strategies and dreaming big. Now, those dreams were dust. I kept walking, not really knowing where I was going. Eventually, I found myself at a small park we used to visit. I sat on a bench, the cold metal biting through my coat, and watched as a young family played nearby. A father tossed his daughter into the air, her laughter ringing through the air. It was a stark contrast to the silence of my apartment, the silence of my life now. It was there, on that cold bench, that the reality of my isolation truly sank in. I had lost more than a job and a girlfriend. I had lost my support network, my confidants, my future. The pain of that realization was overwhelming, and for the first time since this whole mess began, I let myself really feel it. The tears came then, hot and unchecked. I cried for what felt like hours, for everything I'd lost, for everything that had been taken from me. But as the tears dried and the initial wave of grief passed, a new determination filled me. I was down, but I was not out. I had been betrayed, yes, but I was still here. I was still standing, and I was angry. Angry enough to fight back. Angry enough to reclaim what was mine. I walked home with a new resolve. Susan and Peyton had tried to take everything from me, but they had underestimated my resilience. They thought they had left me with nothing, but they were wrong. I spent the next few days diving into the new opportunity Mr. Harrison had offered. It was hard, starting from scratch, but it was also invigorating. I was building something new, something mine, something that no one could take from me. After weeks of relentless work and networking, my new venture began to take shape. Each morning, I woke up with a purpose, fueled by the determination to not just rebuild, but to surpass everything I had lost. This wasn't just about a business comeback. It was about reclaiming my life and proving to everyone, especially Susan and Peyton, that I was far from beaten. I rented a small office in an unassuming building downtown. It wasn't much to look at, with its stark white walls and fluorescent lights, but it was mine. I set up my desk near the window, overlooking the busy street below, a constant reminder of the bustling world I was fighting to make a mark in again. My first major task was to solidify the team. I hired 2 interns, both fresh out of college, eager to make their mark in the tech world. Their enthusiasm was infectious, and it reminded me of myself when I first started. We spent long days and nights brainstorming, coding, and planning. We were building something from scratch, and the energy in the office was palpable. One morning, as I was reviewing our progress, my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was an invitation to a major industry conference, one where I had been a speaker the previous year. My heart skipped a beat. This was my chance to step back into the spotlight, to show the industry that Charlie Morgan was still a force to be reckoned with. Preparations for the conference consumed me. I worked on my presentation every night, refining my speech, making sure every slide was perfect. This was more than just a presentation. It was my public comeback, and I couldn't afford to miss the mark. The day of the conference arrived faster than I expected. As I stood backstage waiting for my turn to speak, my stomach was a knot of nerves. I peeked out at the audience, spotting several familiar faces. Industry bigwigs, former colleagues, even a few from Morgan Thompson Group. My hands trembled slightly, but I clenched them into fists, steadying myself. This was it. When my name was announced, I stepped onto the stage, the lights blindingly bright. I took a deep breath and began to speak. My voice was clear, confident. I talked about innovation, resilience, and the future of technology. With each word, I could feel the room's energy shifting. The audience's interest peaked. After the presentation, people crowded around to talk to me. Old connections were rekindled, and new ones were formed. Several attendees expressed interest in my new venture. It was exhilarating. The conference was a blur of handshakes, business cards, and promising discussions. By the end of the day, my phone was full of new contacts and potential leads. The comeback was in full swing. Back at the office, the mood was jubilant. I shared the success of the conference with my team, and we celebrated into the early hours of the morning. It felt like we were on the brink of something big, something transformative. Over the next few months, our hard work began to pay off. We secured our first major contract, a project that was not just lucrative, but also highly visible. It was the break we had been waiting for. The project was challenging, requiring all our skills and resources, but we were up for it. Every milestone we hit was a step away from my past failures and a step towards a brighter future. As our reputation grew, so did the business. We moved to a larger office, hired more staff, and began to attract attention from bigger players in the industry. It was a heady time. I often found myself working late into the night, driven by a mix of fear and excitement, fear of failing again, and excitement at what we were building. One late evening, as I was leaving the office, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hesitant, I answered. It was a headhunter, representing a major tech company. They had heard about my recent success and were interested in discussing a potential acquisition. My heart raced. This was the big leagues. We arranged to meet for coffee the next day. As I sat across from the headhunter, listening to him outline their proposal, it felt surreal. Here I was, less than a year after being betrayed and ousted from my own company, discussing multi-million-dollar deals. The meeting went well, and as I walked back to my office, I couldn't help but smile. It was a vindication of all the hard work, the long nights, the doubts, and fears. I had made it back, not just to where I had been, but to somewhere better, stronger. That night, I stood by my office window, looking out over the city. The lights twinkled below, each one a reminder of the possibilities that lay out there. I thought about Susan and Peyton, about the hurt and betrayal. They had tried to break me, but they had unwittingly forged me into something stronger. I wasn't just back, I was better than ever. And as I turned from the window, back to the plans and projects that covered my desk, I knew that this was just the beginning. The real work, the real fight was still ahead. And I was ready for it, more ready than I had ever been. The next few weeks after the meeting with the headhunter were a whirlwind of activity. Our team expanded, bringing in new talent to manage the influx of projects that had begun to pour in. With each new client and successful project, my company was cementing its reputation as a rising star in the tech industry. One morning, as I was reviewing project reports in my now much larger office, I received an email that caught me off guard. It was an invitation to an exclusive industry gala, typically reserved for the heavyweights of the tech world. The kind of event where deals were made and futures were decided over hors d'oeuvres and champagne. Being included in this was a sign that I had truly arrived back on the scene, not just as a survivor, but as a contender. As the gala approached, I prepared meticulously. This wasn't just another networking event, it was my reintroduction to the elite, many of whom had witnessed my fall. I chose my attire carefully, a sharp, modern suit that signaled confidence without ostentation. I was ready to face the past, including any encounters with those from Morgan Thompson Group. The night of the gala, the venue was spectacular, bathed in soft light, with live music setting a celebratory tone. I mingled, exchanged pleasantries, and gradually made my way through the room. The conversations were light but laden with opportunities, each handshake a potential gateway to new ventures. Halfway through the evening, I spotted Susan and Peyton from across the room. They were as poised as ever, Peyton with his charming smile and Susan with her calculated grace. Watching them, a part of me recoiled, remembering the pain. But another part of me, the part that had fought back from nothing, felt a surge of triumph. Here I was, on my terms, successful despite their schemes. I made a decision not to avoid them. Instead, I walked directly towards them, my approach confident. Their smiles faltered slightly as I neared, a clear sign they hadn't expected to see me in such a place, at least not so soon. "Charlie," Susan greeted, her voice neutral but her eyes wary. "Peyton," I nodded, offering my hand, which he shook after a brief hesitation. "You look well," Peyton managed, his tone attempting casual friendliness. "I feel well," I replied, my gaze steady. "The new venture is thriving. It's amazing what fresh starts can lead to." Susan's smile tightened. "That's good to hear. We've heard great things." "Thank you," I said, excusing myself with a polite nod before they could extend the conversation. I didn't need their validation, but facing them, seeing the surprise and perhaps a hint of unease in their eyes, felt like a small victory. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of success. I left the gala with a handful of promising business cards and a sense of accomplishment that went beyond the professional. I had faced my past, and I had not just survived, I had thrived. The next day at the office was filled with a buzz of energy. News of my encounter with Susan and Peyton had spread among the team, and it seemed to bolster everyone's spirits. It wasn't just about the business, it was about us, as a team, rising from the ashes and proving ourselves. We continued to push forward, and as we did, the scope of our projects grew. We were no longer just a startup, we were a key player in the tech field. Our success caught the eye of several large corporations, leading to talks of partnerships and even acquisition offers. Each offer was considered carefully. I was not about to make any hasty decisions that could lead us back into a scenario like before. This time, I was in control, and I would ensure that whatever decisions were made would benefit not just me, but all those who had trusted me with their careers during this comeback. During one particularly intense negotiation session, I realized how far I had come. I was no longer the naive co-founder from Morgan Thompson Group. I was a seasoned CEO, aware of the pitfalls and potential of big business deals. As summer turned into fall, our company not only survived but thrived, expanding our reach and doubling our revenue. The feeling of walking into the office, knowing that every decision, every project, every success was a testament to our hard work and resilience, was exhilarating. One particularly crisp fall day, I received a call from an old industry friend who had become a mentor. "Charlie, I just wanted to say, watching you bounce back and then some, it's been nothing short of inspiring," he said. His words made me pause. Yes, I had come back, but more importantly, I had transformed a setback into the foundation for something bigger, something better. As I looked out of my office window, the city sprawled below, bustling and vibrant. I realized that this view, this moment of quiet triumph, wasn't just a personal victory. It was a signal to everyone who had ever doubted or betrayed me. I hadn't just returned to the game, I had changed it. And as the seasons changed, I knew one thing for certain. The best was yet to come. I was not just rebuilding what I had lost, I was creating something that would last, something that would outshine my past, and something that no one could ever take from me again. As my company continued to flourish, gathering momentum with each successful project and innovation, whispers began circulating in industry circles about the faltering performance of Morgan Thompson Group. The company that once seemed unassailable, the company that had unceremoniously pushed me out, was now struggling to keep its head above water. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, as I reviewed quarterly reports showcasing our latest achievements, my assistant informed me that Susan and Peyton had arrived unannounced. My initial surprise quickly gave way to curiosity. What could have driven them to show up at my doorstep, especially without prior notice? I instructed my assistant to show them in. As they entered my office, the contrast between their anxious demeanors and my calm composure couldn't have been starker. Gone were the days when they held the power to dictate terms. Now, they were in my world, and they knew it. "Charlie, thank you for seeing us on such short notice," Susan began, her voice lacking the confidence it once carried. Peyton looked equally uneasy, avoiding my gaze. "We'll get straight to the point," Peyton interjected. "Morgan Thompson Group is in trouble. We've hit a rough patch financially, and several of our key contracts are in jeopardy. We need your help." The irony of the situation was not lost on me. I leaned back in my chair, considering their words. Here they were, the architects of my past downfall, seeking salvation from the very person they had once discarded. "I see," I said slowly, letting the silence hang in the air for a moment. "And what exactly are you asking of me?" "It's simple," Susan replied. "We need an infusion of capital and expertise to stabilize the company. We're hoping you could provide that, maybe even co-manage some of our critical projects." Peyton chimed in. "We wouldn't come to you if we weren't desperate, Charlie. We believe this could be mutually beneficial." Mutually beneficial. The phrase echoed in my mind, a stark reminder of how they had used similar words when they needed my skills but not my presence. I pondered their proposal, the power dynamics now reversed. I took a deep breath and then spoke, my decision clear in my mind. "Susan Peyton, I built my company from the ground up after everything that happened. And now, you expect me to help save yours?" Their faces fell as they realized that this meeting might not go the way they had planned. "I have another idea," I continued, the words measured and deliberate. "Instead of propping up Morgan Thompson Group, I propose that we take over your remaining contracts. Your clients deserve stability and innovation, something you're clearly struggling to provide." The shock on their faces was palpable. Susan tried to interrupt, but I raised my hand to stop her. "You need a solution, and I'm offering one. This isn't just about business. It's about ensuring that the projects you can no longer handle continue to be managed effectively." I could see the conflict playing out in their expressions. This was not the help they had come for, but it was the only offer they were going to get. "We'll need to discuss this," Peyton said after a long pause. "Of course," I replied. "Take all the time you need, but remember, your clients and employees are waiting for a solution. I'm offering a way to ensure they don't suffer because of your mismanagement." As they left my office, a sense of profound satisfaction settled over me. This was not the vengeance of old grudges. This was the assertion of a new order. I had not just survived their betrayal, I had risen above it to a place where I could dictate terms. Over the next few days, negotiations took place. My team and I meticulously reviewed Morgan Thompson Group's contracts, assessing each for viability and fit with our current portfolio. It was a thorough process, ensuring that we only took on projects that would benefit from our intervention. Finally, the agreement was signed. My company would take over several key contracts from Morgan Thompson Group, effectively absorbing much of their operations. The news of the takeover made headlines, a stark depiction of how fortunes had changed. As I watched the news coverage, I felt a sense of closure. This was more than just a business maneuver. It was a symbolic end to the chapter that began with my dismissal. I had not only rebuilt my life, but had also ensured that the narrative of my career was one defined by resilience and strategic prowess. With this move, I had secured not only more business, but also a form of redemption. It was a testament to the fact that in the business world, it's not just about the falls you take, but how you choose to get back up. And now, standing at the helm of my thriving company, I knew that the best response to any setback was undeniable success.